Hello everyone, welcome to Pokémon Scarlet. It's October spooky times and I wanted to do something thematic for the Halloween spirit. So I decided to do a ghost type only Nuzlocke. I'm not great at Pokemon challenges like this, but I wanted to try to see how I would do. The rules for this challenge are simple. Complete the Victory Road path as the main goal. I can only use Pokemon that are ghost type or will become ghost type. If a Pokemon faints, I can no longer use it in battle. I cannot overlevel my Pokemon. One exception will be made later in the video, but more on that later. And finally, no items in battle. Pokemon Scarlet at first glance doesn't seem to be that scary of a game, seeing as trainer battles are pretty much optional, but we will face some hurdles along the way. Now for Nuzlockes, generally you are locked into catching the first Pokemon of a route that you encounter, but for Monotype Nuzlocke, I decided to catch any ghost Pokemon I found. Now since we are playing with the Teal Mask DLC, we have 500 Pokemon available. 43 of them are ghost type, and because we are playing Pokemon Scarlet, we do not have access to the Misdreavus line, the Dreepy line, Ceruledge, and we also do not have access to Fluttermane since we are not in the post-game. That brings our grand total of Pokemon available to us to 36. With this number in the back of our mind, we can now start our journey in Paldea. We begin our Pokemon journey outside of our house, ready to take on the world. We speak to the director of the Pokemon Academy, Director Clavel, about our enrollment. As a new student of the Academy, we are given our choice of Pokemon between Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxly. As an addition to the Ghost type rule and challenge, as long as the Pokemon evolves into a Ghost type, we can use it on our team. So, our obvious choice is Fuecoco. With our new friend Chalupa, we can take on our first battle against Nemona, and we're able to take that nice and fast because she chose the weak typing for some reason. After our battle, I put on my new clothes I got from the Teal Mask DLC, finish the Koraidon side story, and move on to get our second team member, Ghastly. Now throughout the runs on Twitch, we decided to allow me to get a Gengar later down the road via a trade that is available in Levincia, but I'll explain more about that when we get there. After getting Ghastly, we need to face Nemona once again, and it's a little scary as she has access to Terrassalization while we don't. Casper is able to make quick work of Nemona's team, and we get to enter Mesagoza. In Mesagoza, we gain access to the Victory Road path as well as the Teal Mask DLC, and our challenge can truly begin. We make our way to Cortondo and complete the gym test to gain the ability to challenge the first gym leader, Katie. Katie's bug-type Pokemon never really posed issues for me on past runs, especially so with Fuecoco being our starter. The battle starts off as you'd expect. I send out Chalupa against Katie's Nimble, and a Terrassalized Incinerate is enough to OHKO the Nimble and the incoming Tarantula. Out comes Katie's Teddiursa, which uses Fury Swipes, bringing Chalupa down into the yellow. Incinerate from Chalupa is not enough to take out the Bugbear, and I get a little worried. It's alright though, as Casper in the back is enough to finish the fight, winning us our first gym battle. With that battle over, we begin to prepare for our next fight. I pick up Gimmighoul, Drifloon, Mankey, and Shuppet. We also head over to Kitakami Island and pick up a Poltergeist. Getting this many Pokemon so early on will help us a ton with the upcoming gym battles as well as the random encounters we'll have along the way. In Artisan, we are put up against Brassius, the grass type gym leader. Brassius has ended previous attempts before due to his Terrassalized grass Sudowoodo. The gym leader with a fully evolved 115 defense base stat Pokemon this early on is brutal, and that's only scratching the surface of the difficulty of some of these gym battles. I lead with Casper, which is Terra Poison type, giving me a really strong acid spray that takes down the Petilil, Smoliv, and also brings down Sudowoodo down to Sturdy. Having a Terra Poison type is a huge difference maker in this fight, and it turns this fight into a clean sweep with Ghastly. Despite how easy this battle may have seemed, Sudowoodo could have easily taken down Chalupa as well as the Drifloon if I did not have Casper in the back. But we are able to make it through the battle and prepare for what I believe to be the hardest battle in this challenge. Iono's team comprises of Watrel, Bellibolt, Luxio, and her ace Pokemon Terra Electric Mismagius. Despite grabbing Sandygast on the beach outside of Levincia, we still need to brainstorm for this fight. Electric type Mismagius has no type weakness due to the ability Levitate, which means we have to hit it hard or else it will OHKO any of my Pokemon with a Hex, as Mismagius has a whopping 105 base stat in a special attack, as well as 105 in speed, which makes it outspeed almost my entire team. Iono is the first and only exception we make during the run. The exception is increasing the level cap from 24 to 25. After trial and error against Iono, it takes a ton of luck to get even close to beating her with the current roster of Pokemon that I currently have. And while I do have access to Pokemon like Mimikyu, I really just wanted to solve the puzzle that was right in front of me. With our level cap at level 25, we are now able to use the level 25 Gengar that we received in the trade in Levincia. There is a caveat to being able to use his Gengar, however. I could only use his Gengar if the Ghastly that I caught earlier survived up until this point. Now that we have Gengar, we can begin to put our plan into action. During the Iono fight, we lead with Shuppet in order to burn the Wattrel with Will-O-Wisp. At this point, I have determined both Shuppet and Gimmighoul to be sackable, and I am willing to risk both of them in order to get an edge against the Electric Streamer. We take a big hit from Spark and we land our Will-O-Wisp. With its attack stat halved, we easily take another Spark and land a Confuse Ray to further debilitate the bird. We then bring in Gimmighoul to set up Reflect to seal the deal in terms of physical hits from Iona's team, as 3/4 of Iona's team use physical moves. With all this set up, we send in Gengar and set up a Nasty Plot while dodging the paralysis from Spark, and the rest of the fight is just a sweep with Hex and we pull through the hardest battle yet. After the battle, we get to pick up Mimikyu, Bramblin, Sableye, and Rotom. Before making our way to Cascarafa to challenge Kofu, we make a quick pit stop to Kitakami Island to find the Unremarkable Cup and evolve our Poltergeist into Sinistcha. After passing the gym test in Puerto Marinada, we return to Cascarafa to challenge Kofu's water types. We lead off with our Terragrass Bramblegast Twigs, who gets off a Trailblazer into Veluza. Veluza, as well as the incoming Wugtrio, go down to Bullet Seeds, and out comes Kofu's Terra Water Crabominable. I take a dumb risk and Bullet Seed the crab, but only hit twice, allowing the crab to hit Twigs with a slam, bringing him to the red. I'm then able to finish off the Crabominable, but that was really close for comfort. Surely I don't make any more of these mistakes, right? After leaving Cascarafa, we make our way to Medali, home to the normal type gym leader Larry. We waste no time getting ready to face Larry, and he leads off with a Kamala as I rush to Thunder Wave him. Now you may be confused as to why I use Thunder Wave here, as it doesn't affect Kamala due to its ability Comatose, but I'm Thunder Waving to waste the Sucker Punch PP. I led with Rotom because the only moves that can hit Rotom are Sucker Punch from Kamala and Aerial Ace from Staraptor. After stalling out all the Sucker Punches, we hit the Kamala with a Shockwave and Volt Switch out to Gengar, which is then able to take out Kamala, the Dunsparce, and Staraptor with Sludge Bombs, winning us the fight. Almost immediately after the fight, we are challenged by Nemona. Lycanroc bites Rotom and brings it down to the yellow while we Volt Switch out to Matcha. We are able to hit it with a Matcha Gotcha, healing our health a little bit after taking a bite from the dog. Goomy comes out next, and after I Stun Spore the Goomy, which uses Sap Slicker to negate that, I send in Mimikyu in order to neutralize the Dragon Pulse. Hone Claws into Shadow Sneaks are enough to KO the Goomy and the incoming Pomo. Masquerada comes out, but we can take it down with our Skeledirge, winning us in a close fight. Not only did I forget that Goomy had Sap Sipper in the first place, I had completely forgotten about this fight and I was worried that the furthest attempt that I ever had was about to end. Montenevera is next, and I talk to Moist Critical and finish off the preliminary battles before facing Grime and her team of ghosts. I was initially worried about this gym. A double battle against ghost type seems daunting and I was almost certain we'd lose someone here. We lead with Skeledirge and Mimikyu, and we Terrasilize Skeledirge to remove our ghost typing and focus the Banette side with Torch Song and Shadow Sneak. The next turn, we split our attacks. I Shadow Sneak the Houndstone and Shadow Ball the Mimikyu. Slash from Mimikyu drops Skeledirge to the yellow, and Houndstone sets up a Phantom Force. I have to switch out Skeledirge in order to keep him alive, and I bring in Banette, which I'm okay with losing if it is hit with Phantom Force. Note that my disguise on my own Mimikyu isn't broken yet, so I'm safe from losing him. I take out Rhyme's Mimikyu with my own Mimikyu with Shadow Claw, and Phantom Force takes out my Banette. Goodbye Sheet, you did well against Iono. I bring out Gengar and take out Rhyme's Houndstone with a Shadow Sneak and Toxtricity with a critical Hex. Before we can face Opal and her Psychic types, we are yet again challenged by Nemona in Alfornada. If I am not prepared when her Meowscarada comes out, I could potentially lose a team member. She leads with her Lycanroc while I go with Mimikyu. A couple of Shadow Sneaks take out Lycanroc and she switches in Palmon. Forgetting that Palmon is a fighting type, I go for Shadow Sneak instead of Play Rough, and I miss my attack due to sand attacks from earlier. This allows the Palmon to paralyze my Mimikyu as well as break down my disguise, while I get fully paralyzed. I get paralyzed yet again and get dropped down to the yellow. Due to my stubbornness, I decide to go for yet another Shadow Claw and take out the Palmon. Risking Mimikyu here was incredibly dumb as I foresee her being super useful against Hassel in the Elite Four. Nonetheless, Sliggoo comes out and I finally switch out to Gengar. Hex does next to nothing to the slug and I take big damage from Dragon Pulse. I then switch in Russell to try and have a better matchup against it. Water Pulse does next to nothing against Russell, but I get confused. I'm able to break through and I Strength Sap the Sliggoo, again forgetting about Sap Sipper. I decide to Terrasilize my Drifloon into Flying type and take out the Sliggoo with Aerial Aces. In a repeat of the last fight against Nemona, we take out Meowscarada with our Skeledirge, winning us arguably the closest fight we've had this run yet. After getting in touch with my emotions, we face off against the 7th Gym Leader Opal. She leads off with Farigiraf, a normal Psychic type which is immune to my Ghost attacks. Despite a +2 play rough from Tera Fairy Mimikyu, we are not able to break through Reflect and that leaves us both in the yellow. A second play rough takes out the Farigiraf and Opal sends out Gardevoir. I bring out Russell, who takes a huge hit from Psychic as well as getting a special defense drop. The Spadef drop forces me to switch out into Sableye, which is immune to the incoming Psychic. I'm worried about Dazzling Gleam from Gardevoir, so I pivot into Gengar. In hindsight, I think pivoting into Skeledirge would have been the correct option, but for now we work with Gengar. Hex is enough to take out the Gardevoir and out comes Espathra, who also goes down to a Hex. Florges comes out and I switch into Sableye to predict the Psychic. After faking out with Sableye, I switch out into Skeledirge, who tanks a Moonblast and a Psychic, allowing us to get off a strong Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball isn't enough to finish out the Florges, so we need to change the plan. I end up sacrificing Sableye to a Moonblast in order to get Mimikyu in and finish off the Florges with a Shadow Sneak. That's fine. A second Shadow Sneak knocked out the Florges, and we're able to finish the battle. Although I expected this battle to be quite easy, we almost lost multiple Pokemon and we were very close to losing our Mimikyu due to a miss. After a mental break and a shopping spree, we head back to the mountains and towards Glaciado, catching a Frostlass and Spiritomb on the way. I expect this gym to be one of the easiest as Skeledirge is broken, but then again I thought Opal would also be a walk in the park. Grusha leads with Frostmoth. With Terrasilization, a Choice Scarf, and a broken move in the form of Torch Song, Skeledirge easily wins the battle. Before we challenge the Elite Four and the top champion Gita, I make one last trip to Kitakami Island to grab Basculin and a Terra Normal Trevenant. With a final team of Chalupa the Skeledirge, Sashimi the Basculegion, and the Trevenant, Toast the Mimikyu, Spooks the Spiritomb, and Rukia the Frostlass, we are prepared to face off against the Elite Four of Paldea. The first battle is against Rika, the ground type user. I lead Trevenant against Rika's Wish Cache, and thankfully tank a Blizzard from the Catfish, and take it out with one Hornleech, gaining back some much needed health. Camerupt comes out and I send out Sashimi, who tanks an incoming Fire Blast easily. Sashimi can take out the Camerupt with a flip turn, allowing me to bring back Ent, and the last 3 Pokemon are an easy wipe. The trio goes down to a Trailblaze, Donphan falls to 2 Hornleeches, and Clodsire is taken out with a Hornleech into Shadow Claw. I was mainly worried about Camerupt, but Basculegion let Trevenant sweep Rika easily, winning us the first Elite Four battle. After healing our Pokemon, we face the second battle, Steel-type user Poppy. She leads with Copperajah that has Stomping Tantrum. Thankfully, we're holding an Air Balloon, which allows us to dodge that Stomping Tantrum and hit Copperajah with 2 Torch Songs, knocking it out. The incoming Bronzong also gets KO'd, and the same can be said for the rest of the battle. We find a little bit of resistance with Tinkaton hitting Chalupa with a critical Stone Edge, but we manage to win again with no losses. Next up is our rematch with Larry. In this battle, he uses Flying type, so we lead with Rukia while he sends out Tropius. I didn't look for Ice Beam for our Frostlass, so we have to run with Frost Breath. Frost Breath always lands a critical hit, but it has 90% accuracy. Hopefully, that won't become an issue. Tropius goes down easily to the 4x weakness move, and Larry brings down his Altaria next. Altaria also goes down to a Frost Breath, and we are looking at yet another sweep. Staraptor is next, and a Frost Breath should... With that miss, we take a huge hit from Brave Bird. I risk another miss with Frost Breath, but we manage to connect and take out the Staraptor. Up next is Oricorio, and we do not have the health to stay in. I bring in Spooks to try and hit the Oricorio hard with a Sucker Punch, but end up failing as Oricorio hits a Teeter Dance. Spook gets hit with Confusion and drops to red health after another Revelation Dance. In an attempt to save Spooks from dying, I send in Toast, who immediately loses their disguise. Terra Fairy play roughs are enough to take out the Oricorio, and out comes Flamigo. Forgetting that Flamigo is Larry's ace, I use play rough to attack the Flamigo super effectively, but instead end up losing Mimikyu to a Brave Bird. Flamigo falls to recoil damage, and I finish the third battle with a fallen Mimikyu. Oh, I've got 2 battles in front of me with only 4 Pokemon to work with. Hassel uses Dragon type Pokemon, and Mimikyu would have been super useful here, but instead we have to use Rukia. Hassel leads with Noivern, which should easily go down to an Icy Wind. Next up is Haxorus. Surprisingly, Frost Breath is enough to take him out. Surely nothing can go wrong during the rest of the battle. Dragalge is up next, and we actually hit the 3rd Frost Breath, but it isn't an Oko. Dragon Pulse drops us to the red health, and I outspeed to KO with Icy Wind. Flapple is next, and that goes down to an Icy Wind. Up next is Bexcalibur. I decide to sacrifice Rukia here to get off a Frost Breath, and Spooks comes in to revenge kill the pseudo-legendary, winning us the battle. With our last 4 Pokemon, Skeledirge, Trevenant, Basculegion, and Spiritomb, we move forward to challenge the top champion Geeta. Her lead as Pathway goes down to a Shadow Ball from Chalupa. Out comes Avalugg, but there's an issue. Usually a fire move should be fine against the Avalugg, but I am Choice Scarf to outspeed Pokemon in Geeta's team. Because of this, I am locked into Shadow Ball and have to switch out in order to tank the incoming Earthquake. I send out Trevenant and Terrasilize into Normal type to endure the incoming Avalanche. Facade does next to nothing, and Avalanche still does huge damage to Trevenant, so the plan to use Terra Normal proved to be useless. With our back against the wall, I sacrifice Trevenant in order to bring in Chalupa to use Flamethrower. The only thing holding Chalupa back from a Torch Song sweep is the Veluza that Geeta has in the back, as well as her ace Glamora. After Avalugg goes down, Geeta surprisingly sends out King Gambit, who falls to 2 Flamethrowers after landing a Kowtow Cleave on the Skeledirge. I switch into Spiritomb to tank the Water-type liquidation from the Veluza. 2 Sucker Punches is enough to KO the fish, and a bulked up Go-Goat takes out Spiritomb with the Play Rough. But we can revenge kill with Flamethrower from Skeledirge. Skeledirge can now finally rest after carrying us through so many battles, as I sacrifice it to safely send in Sashimi to finish off the Glamora, winning us the battle and the challenge. Going into the Pokemon League with 6 Pokemon and coming out with only 1 really shows how volatile simple mistakes can really be. From forgetting abilities to relying on inaccurate moves, we've had plenty of chances to lose the run. Despite all the mistakes, we're able to finish the challenge with just our Basculegion left. This challenge was incredibly fun to play, despite some of the battles being easy sweeps. Honestly, this run was kind of a boss rush, but I still found challenges along the way. If I were to do this challenge again, I think I would make it an effort to actually ban setup moves like Nasty Plot, or limit the encounters I'd have before each gym, just to add a little bit more of a challenge. Pokemon Scarlet, despite its bugs and kinks, is a great game, and I'm glad I was able to complete an October Halloween challenge video in time. If you've made it to the end of the video, I'd very much appreciate it if you can give this video a like, as well as subscribing for more content like this. If you have a challenge or an ideal you'd like to see, I'd love to read them in the comments down below. Before I end the video, I do want to let you know that I do stream over on Twitch, and you can see me there a lot. Maybe you can catch me working on the next challenge video, or just getting mad at FPS games. Either way, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a happy Halloween.